Hey guys, we got Olivia here again today. She's one of our favorites. We're actually going to flip the script and she's going to ask us some questions about her curiosities about our side of the real estate world. So
Yes.
we're in the hot seat. She gets to take control and hopefully we can have some fun with this one.
Yes. So in another video, I mentioned that I dabbled a little bit in the lending side. I'm in title now. I don't have any real estate experiences. So I was curious, what is the absolute best thing about being a real estate agent?
I think there's a lot of good things about it, and I think that's why a lot of people get into the industry. And then I think there's a lot of things that people don't think about. So obviously, the great thing is being able to kind of create a business around a lifestyle you hope to live or that you want to work towards. I think the other thing that directly parallels that a lot of people don't think about is they just think that they can go get their real estate license, post on Instagram or Facebook one time that they're a real estate agent, and then exactly just sit around and wait for the phone calls to just come in. And so I think a lot of people get it and just they see commission checks,
Right.
come in and they're like, oh, I can make a lot of money. I only have to sell 12 houses to make a good living or something like that. And they don't understand that every house takes months and months and months of work or months and months of just finding that client, And so it's just, I would say if you're getting into the industry, be prepared to not get paid for your first 6 months. And that's a lot. And we see so many people come in and be like, I'm interested and I want to get started. And they come in, they don't do the heavy upfront work, and then they don't get paid in the first couple months, and then they drop out because they can't survive anymore.
Right.
And so it's definitely, it always goes where the market is hot, a lot of people jump in because they think it's easy money.
Yeah.
And it can be easy to get a few deals in a hot market just because there's a lot more people doing transactions and stuff like that. But then the market cools off, and if you don't have those skills in place or those business systems in place, you're going to be without any clients, any money, and you're going to go under pretty fast. Okay. So the freedom and the flexibility is great, and to be able to grow the way you want and kind of focus on the clients you want to focus on, but there's so much background work that I just don't think people realize. You know? It's like shooting these videos. I don't think anybody thinks about having to shoot videos but it's about being personal and connecting with people so that we can find some trust and work towards something with that. Because it's most people's biggest purchase. So if they can't trust you, they're never going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
And then our goal obviously is to do everything within their best interest. So have to be authentic and have to be personable and stuff like that. So it's a very demanding career, but if you do good at it and you put in the work early on, it can be very freeing as well. And it's just, it's all the other aspects are fun. Seeing houses are fun, working with the people. We get really connected to all of our clients. Most of them become really close friends, that we stay in touch with after the transaction all the time. Our kids become friends with their kids and stuff like that. So that's all really fun. And it is really rewarding seeing people achieve a dream, whether it's a first-time home buyer getting out of the rental race or whether it's somebody, moving up from their first home into their dream home or something like that, just the joy they get from it and all that. And we do everything we can to try to make it as smooth as possible. And so it's just really rewarding. So it's hard to pinpoint what's best. There's a lot of great things, but there's a lot of cons as well that you just got to think about. So
the key takeaways that I took is you get to build your own lifestyle, your own business, make great connections, help people with the biggest, most rewarding purchases of their life. What would you say is the hardest? Is it what you were describing as trying to get yourself out there, putting in the work, or?
I'd say being consistent is the hardest, right? Because it's so easy to be maybe you just closed the deal and you just got your paycheck.
Right.
And then, so like for the next week, you may feel like you don't want to work because you're like, I just closed the deal. Like I want to take a week off or whatever. And a lot of people do that. Like a lot of agents, they'll hustle to get a deal. And then as soon as they get the deal and close it, then they take time off and relax.
Right.
And then they don't hustle again until they're like
Until they
need it financially.
Yeah.
And so it's just this roller coaster that a lot of people go on. And so I definitely say that's the hardest thing is consistency. Like me and Emily have been able to develop a like daily schedule that's very, strict as far as what we're doing. And some people look at that and go, well, it's no different than like a 9 to 5 because you're scheduling yourself in.
Right.
But the ability of it is that if our kid has a soccer tournament and he's got a game at 9 a.m., those tasks that we were completing between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. can be moved to the evening.
Right.
And we can be present for the game.
That's awesome.
And so that's the great thing is that you can be present for the important events, but you still have to, it's not like you can just load up all the fun stuff and be like, work 1 hour a day, So I think that's the hardest thing is people just, they struggle with being consistent and it's great to have a partner to work with. I think it would be 100 times harder on your own or individually if you just worked out of your home office or weren't surrounded by people. So having support is really important.
So I imagine it can be really discouraging sometimes, and so if you have that other person to kind of like help lift you back up,
exactly,
it's easier just to kind of like keep it going.
Yeah, because no matter how consistent you are, you're gonna have that some sort of roller coaster at some point. You're gonna be in a dry spell, or you may be like overly busy,
right?
And so it can be discouraging because you're working 14 hours a day trying to get everything done, or it can be discouraging the other way where you wish you had more work to do and you're trying to drum up business in whatever way you can think of.
Always a roller coaster.
And so having a partner or like an office to like rely on to kind of pick you up on your down days because we can't always be 100% on every day, and so it's good to have the fallback.
All right, so obviously since I don't know much about like real estate, I know why you guys are important. I love working with agents. It makes deals so much smoother. But in my mind, like the always funnest thing is going to see houses. So when you guys go to see houses, do you have a favorite like style or build type?
This would definitely be a better question for Emily. Obviously, I'm a guy, so I'm pretty simple, right? I would like a big garage area, to have that type of stuff. I really like the entertainment areas for like movies and things like that, having a nice area like that and just a gathering social area. So as far as like great big master suites and stuff like that, that would be like lower on my bucket list. And luckily me and Emily both like dark tones, so like a lot of black and things, so which is coming into style a little bit more, so which is great. So I wouldn't say I'm too cut up on like a specific like house style, but more just like what does it have, what amenities does it have, and kind of the color style. We're just making sure it has a lot of like strong contrast.
Right.
So yeah, that would be for me. So I'm sure Emily would get a lot more detailed.
All right, we'll have to hit back with Emily on that one. Yeah, I'm curious what she thinks too.
We will for sure.
So also being an agent, do you have any like horror stories of when you're showing a house or if a deal just goes completely sideways, a client type?
Yeah, one of the craziest things about working with clients is you think you know exactly what they're looking for or what they need, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and then a new situation will pop up and they'll bring a whole new angle to it. And so you have to be very flexible and able to pivot on when you gather new information or they drop new bombs on you. As far as like personal client horror stories, we don't really have any. We've been very lucky to work with great people. Obviously some people are a little bit slow at like signing documents or like that's just depends on schedules and stuff like that, but as far as like a rough client, we've been lucky to not have. So we've talked about that, me and Emily, and there's just some people we would prefer not to work with if they don't align with kind of how we do stuff or mesh well personality wise. On the flip side, like showings and stuff like that, you can always find horror stories. So you found some basements that you take one look at and you're like, I'm not going down there. If you want to go down there, go for it. So, you know, we've had those types of houses where it's like, in the listing they only show photos of the upstairs and like or the part that like looks decent, right? And you know, the 50% of the house that looks like a murder took place, they don't list in the listing, you know. And so there's definitely been places I've walked in, I've looked at the stairs in the basement and I'm like, I'm not walking down there. So if you would like to, I'm up here. Yell if you need anything.
I'm not gonna lie, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like you run into those things. We've had, you know, the most awkward situations are where you go to show a home and the seller's supposed to be gone and you go there. We always try to announce ourselves, knock, ring the doorbell, open the door, announce our presence. But it doesn't matter how much you try to communicate your presence. Some people just like don't hear you or so out of it. Like we've walked into houses and started a tour and got to a bedroom and somebody's passed out in the bed or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
And so
what do you do when that happens?
In those situations, we usually just try to exit as quickly as possible.
Didn't happen.
So yeah, it's one of those situations that it's better to kind of exit, and if the buyer still has strong interest in the property, call the selling agent, tell them what happened, and try to reschedule a showing than to try to like wake them up or like announce yourself more and cause confusion or panic or anything like that. So, you know, we've had people where we've toured the entire upstairs and then all of a sudden somebody wanders up from the basement, like,
it's like, hey, how are you?
You know, completely out of it, like not knowing anything that's going on. Like they knew you know, the selling agent said they knew there was a showing, they were supposed to be gone. We've had people be in showings that like aren't owners of the house, that it's like a friend or a family member that's over there just hanging out, and like the seller knew about it, but they didn't tell other people that had access to their house. And so they'll just be in there like normal.
So awkward.
And so that's probably where most of the horror stories come from, is showing homes. And so you do have to be like pretty careful because you can run into a lot of issues, you know, if you spook the wrong person or, you know.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
So you have to be, you know, think about safety and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people don't think about that it is a little bit more of a risky career in that sense, that you're going into strangers' properties, you know, and even just meeting with clients the first time, like there's a lot of safety procedures that you got to think about, as far as, you know, it's smart to not meet people for the first time by yourself, or definitely don't meet them in like a private location, you know, all those types of things. So it's things that people don't want to think about, but they're important. So, you know, outside of that, you know, some deals get messy. That's part of the business, though. That's always stressful when you're going through it, but most of the time creative solutions can happen, and our job is just to keep everybody calm and, you know, help facilitate those solutions between all the parties involved and stuff like that. So probably one of the worst ones in that aspect is just having to delay multiple times after like a set closing date, or like they're waiting to sign papers and just being like, can't sign today, it's gonna be 3 days, and it goes back again and again. Those are probably the worst as far as deals go, is when you just get unclear information from some of the other parties involved. But yeah, we haven't been involved in anything too crazy yet. The showing horror stories are, I think every agent will say, are relatively common, which is kind of crazy. So you just have to prepare for it and just kind of know how you're gonna react.
And go with it,
Yeah, so.
I never thought about like all that, all the safety and everything. That's all right.
Yeah, that's, you know,
a lot about being an agent.
That's, you know, for me and Emily, like, you know, she never goes with, you know, to an initial appointment by herself if it's somebody we don't know. Obviously, if it's one of her really good friends or whatever, we're not very concerned. But, you know, and then just stuff with like if it's a single client you're working with, opposite sex type of stuff, like you just want to be very professional and things like that. So usually if we're working with like a male that's a single adult, then like I'll deal with a lot of the personal stuff if we both can't be there, just because it's more professional in that manner, and vice versa. You know, so just there's a lot of safety stuff, and you try to avoid the horror stories as much as possible.
Yeah,
so,
you do.
Horror stories are stressful.
Right, they are. Thankfully, they don't happen a ton.
Yeah, no,
So,
they
that's good.
they don't happen a ton. Like the showing stuff, we probably had in all the showings we've done, probably had like 4 or 5 of those situations. So they happen, just not. It's not going to be every single showing.
Right. I hope not. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I learned a lot about things that I didn't know about an agent. I often get asked, what is the importance of an agent? Obviously, I know I am more than happy to tell it to people, but I'm curious how you guys explain it. Like, what makes an agent so important to a transaction?
I think there's a lot of things, but I think like if we're gonna answer it simply, we're kind of there to try to manage everybody, whereas we're the connecting dots and trying to. Our objective is to get you to your goal,
Right.
You know. So, and sometimes that is providing you feedback that maybe you don't want to hear, but it's going to get you to your objective, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing is we're doing things in your best interest to get you what you want. That's not always agreeing with you 100% of the time, and so our goal really is to try to make things as smooth as possible, make sure we run into as minimal of problems as possible, make sure all the parties are in sync. So if we're working with buyers, we're working with the entire seller side, you know, their agent, their title company, if they have to move into another property, aligning all that type of stuff, the buyer's lender, the title office on the buyer's side. There's just so many moving parts to keep everything aligned. I'd say that's one of the most important things, because if one thing changes for one party, it changes for the other 5 or 6 that are involved. And I don't think people realize that as much. Like if one date changes for one person, it changes for everybody. And so our job is to keep everybody on the same page and, you know, just take a lot of that stress off. And I'd say that's the other one, is just like buying a home is very stressful. And if we can take on the stress for you, then that allows you to enjoy the experience a lot more, you know. And then third, just protection.
I was about to say, it's really nice to have someone on your side too that's going to fight for you and make sure that you're not taken advantage of from the other side. Yeah,
so it's just, you know, protection as far as making sure you're not buying a dud of a house. We do everything we can to make sure you're buying a good property, making sure you're not overpaying for it, making sure, you know, that you're not getting taken advantage of on the lending side or, you know, the title side or any other parties, you know, because we're there representing you. You know, we love working with you, we love working with our lenders, but our, you know, the client has needs and interests have to come first.
Exactly.
Like above ourselves as well, you know, and so that's a big deal, is we're there to protect you and get your needs met. So
love it.
So would you add anything to that I missed?
No, I think
from your perspective.
I think you hit the best points. Is it keeps things less confusing. It's obviously great to have someone on your side that has your best interest in mind. And honestly, it helps with communication so much when someone knows exactly what's going on, as opposed to like if I was just gonna go out and try and buy a house by myself as is, I'd have no clue.
Yeah.
Try and read through all the disclosures if I could. I can tell you I probably wouldn't know half the stuff that I was signing.
Yeah.
That was a lie. If we can take that part out, because I do know.
You know what you need to know for title, correct?
That was so bad. Yeah.
No.
The reps see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is it changes all the time, right? So it's the industry is always evolving. It's evolving on your side. It's evolving on our side. We have to do so much continuing education. Like if you only buy and sell a house, just say once every 10 years,
right?
The last time you did it, it's completely different. You know, how the negotiations take place, what to expect, what type of market it is. The forms are gonna all be different by that time because they've been amended and changed and gone through lawyer drafts, and they get longer and longer every year. You know, and so there's a lot of legality in it now that used to. have a lot less paperwork in the past. So it's just really important having somebody that's knowledgeable on your side. So I would say I would add that as another point is education. Like just when you're going through the process, we want to educate you as much as possible so you're making the best decisions for yourself.
Right. Okay, well, thank you for some insight into the other part of real estate.
Yeah, so it's a crazy business, but it's enjoyable and it's fun. And if you're interested in getting in, feel free to, reach out to us. We have talked to a lot of people about getting started, and hopefully the first part didn't scare you. It just, we like to be honest. It's a lot of hard work, and if you're going to be successful, you gotta push, and we're still in our grind phase, so we get it, and it's a lot. So, but yeah, thanks for Olivia being here and flipping the script a little bit, and hope you guys all have a great day.
Thanks.